Kev's a little younger than us, Johnny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not too much. I don't think. Not too bad. How many years? 3-year difference?
I think 5 or 6, man, for me.
No, I'm 30. I just turned 36. Yeah. My mom didn't let me watch a lot of MTV at first.
It feels good, man. It feels good, right? Yo, I'm in the light at the end of the tunnel. Paper stacks, yeah, I got them in the bundles. Harry Potter breaking bread with the muggles. They said I would've made it, now they looking puzzled. They said I would've.
All right, are we ready to rock and roll? Johnny, you ready?
I'm ready.
Cool. Ty, you ready?
Let's do it, Kev.
Timeout. Tyler, who the heck are we taking a timeout with today?
Well, Kev, I'm glad I got my whistle back. That was a puny finger little whistle that I tried to do last week with our CISO buddy. But ladies and gentlemen, children of America, wherever you are, up in D.C., Dallas, Western New York, as we see Kev's got his lid on today, we have Jonny Austin, the VP of Engineering at Upwell. And Jonny Austin is also a podcast host. Jonny, thanks for being on the show. Are you ready to rock and roll, man?
I'm ready to do it. Thanks, guys, for having me.
You bet. And Jonny, I wanted to come right out of the gate. Like anytime I get to talk about the 90s, man, I could do it forever. I know you were a big Encino Man guy. I heard a couple podcasts you were on. But dude, is there any particular music video that was your favorite growing up in the 90s? Because I got 2.
Oh, man. Music videos. Oh, you just unlocked a database that hasn't been accessed in a long time because they just don't do music videos in the way that they used to. Let's see. I'll tell you one. So it was because this one was kind of scary to me, and it was like number 1 on MTV Jams for like weeks and weeks and weeks. So it was Bone Thugs and Harmony, The Crossroads. And it was so creepy. I mean, forget about the song itself, but like the video was like so creepy, and it's like the whole afterlife and like people dying and whatnot. But it was just like it was on MTV Jams and was number 1 like every day for weeks and weeks. So yeah,
that was it, man. It was 11-year-old baseball for me. It was that, and it came out at the same time as Adam Sandler's like famous like CD came out. And if you were the cool dude, if you had Bone Thugs and you had the Sandler CD, and dude, my take, I just remember Make Him Say It was like my favorite one, like mystical, like rolling with the tanks in like a gym.
And he's like sitting on the basketball hooping.
and Mo Money, Mo Problems is probably my ultimate fave, man. Like. But anyway, man. Well, Kev, what do you got for Jonny?
Well, he got me started on music videos. I was just thinking about Bonnie and Clyde, like with Jay-Z there. That was always a good one.
Kev's a little younger than us, Johnny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not too much. I don't think. Not too bad. How many years? 3-year difference?
I think 5 or 6, man, for me.
No, I'm 30. I just turned 36. Yeah. My mom didn't let me watch a lot of MTV at first, but then my sister and I figured out how and when we could actually watch it. But,
there you go. I was gonna say you missed out on some good stuff.
Yeah. So, Johnny, what was like growing up? What was like one of your sitcoms? What was a show that you all watched? Whether it was weekly, I still remember Saturday cartoons, but now our kids can turn on cartoons just about any time and watch exactly what they want. But take me back to the living room of Jonny Austin.
Yeah, well, it was the 90s, so there were a lot of sitcoms to choose from. So it depends on the like day of the week, you know. Friday nights always had the TGIF special. I think it was ABC that would play, and it would have like Family Manners. What else? I think Hanging with Mr. Cooper was in there for a little bit. I think Full House was on TGIF as well at one point, or maybe that was Step by Step. Step by Step was definitely, Step by Step for sure. And then like maybe one other show. So that was like a big one. Then on Saturday, you had the Snick, right? And that was like Clarissa Explains It All. So like that was a big, was that a sitcom? I don't know if that was a sitcom, but at this point I'm just, talking about shows, but all of that was probably like my all-time favorite like 90s show. That in like the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers are kind of neck and neck, but like those two shows are great.
I feel like TV just isn't the same anymore. I don't know. It's just not even close. You even look at some of the late night shows like Seinfeld and Friends and like shows like that too. Is just that not even. I don't even laugh that hard.
Yeah.
And
We've
Johnny,
fallen very far.
I gotta ask you, Johnny, too, man. Yeah, very far. And too many options right now too. Like I'm always like,
that's true.
My litmus test is if I'm like, a year late on shows. I'll see a show and I'll text my buddy. I'll be like, dude, have you checked this out? And he's like, dude, that's been out for like a year and a half, man. I'm like, good. That means I'm actually doing some life.
I've been the same way with like music, right? Like I'll discover a new song. It's like, oh man, this is great. It's like, oh yeah, this came out in 2017. It's like, oh, okay, well, it's new to me. It feels new.
Yeah. Well, Jonny, let's kind of dig into like some IT, the fun little IT stuff back in the day too. Do you remember getting introduced to Netscape?
Yeah, I do actually.
And who introduced it to you, and what did they tell you about it? Because like my dad did it to me, and I was like, Dad, can I play Madden? And he was like, his answer to me was like, heck, I don't know what this is.
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of on my own with that sort of thing, right? I remember getting a family laptop. And, like my mom was not really much into computers. And, my stepdad raised me. He kind of worked in like the world of General Motors and like unions and whatnot. So he wasn't very much like a computer guy necessarily. So I was kind of on my own with this sort of thing, kind of discovering it, the internet and stuff like that. And so Netscape was just like the thing that, you did, back at that time, right? Like right around when AOL and all that stuff was coming online. And so it was just like the way you got to the internet. And so, I'm just kind of like the process of, elimination, like, well, no, that's solitary. No, that's something different. All right, this is the thing that gets you to the interesting stuff.
Yeah, we're gone are the days of away messages. Jonny, what was your favorite away message that you put up?
Oh, man. I don't think I even bothered with an away message.
Oh, God.
It just wasn't around, right? I wasn't that sophisticated at the time,
right? So, Jonny, if we're driving by you on 85, like you and I were talking about earlier, what song can you sing, eyes closed, don't care who's watching, who's listening, could be good singing, could be bad singing, but what song would you sing?
Ooh. So you said sing, so I'm going to go with R&B. Let's see. Probably, I'll tell you one that you might expect, and I'll tell you one that you would never, ever in a million years guess, right? You might expect I'm a big Tevin Campbell fan, and so like Can We Talk is probably like one of his bigger hits, and like, yeah, I love that song. It comes on, I sing it proudly and loudly. One that you would probably never expect would be Shania Twain, You're Still the One.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I remember being exposed to this song, and like, I mean, I'm going to age myself a little bit, in like the 8th grade or whatever, and I guess it was like a summer thing or whatever, and it just came on over and over, and like radio, MTV, everywhere. It was just all, and it was just like, you know what? I'm on board. I like this song. And ever since then, it's still on a special playlist I have now.
Oh, dude. Yeah, man, those are like tearjerkers to me, It's like, it's the one I'll love for life, man, you know? And I usually blare like random songs in the golf cart, when I'm just playing by myself. And sometimes I'll get a little, I'll start missing my wife on the golf course, if it's the right vibe of a song.
Yeah. Music will do that to you.
Yeah, man. And well, Jonny, let's kind of get into your career here. You started out at Lockheed, I think, back in 2006. And now you've worked all the way up to, VP of engineering, and you've been more on the software tech side, it looks like.
Yep.
But let's ask you one more fun little question here. Like, back in the 90s, if you could have invented, and you can't say AI right now, but if you could have invented a technology in like, let's say 2008, and you knew what we had right now, what would you invent that you put your stamp on?
Ooh, technology.
That's impactful, that you would feel impactful, and it's owned by JohnnyAustin.com.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's not really a technology, so to speak, although it is. I think streaming really came out of nowhere, and just like really, because we're talking about the 90s, it just demolished everything we knew about living life at the time, right? In terms of like appointment television, advertisements, what goes to the movies versus, like the equivalent would be, streaming movies today. We used to have the direct to DVD. Although like the streaming movies are higher quality. Sometimes they are, and they not always are. But I don't know, it did really kind of change the face of like how we think about entertainment. Like, even my kids now, they're just now recently like learning about ads, right? Because everything we have is like paid tier or whatever. Like they just go through content, like there are no ads or whatever. And so like now when we're watching TV together and like an ad actually comes on or a commercial or whatever, and it's just like, what the hell is this? Like what's going on? Like what happened to, Bluey or whatever, right? It's just like, oh, this is how companies used to make money, right? I think this is all coming back now because it's not really sustainable. But I think, that's really changed the landscape of like how we consume entertainment.
That's funny. My son will do the same thing. We're watching like live sports is pretty much the only time that he's seen any commercial. And he's like, "Is that a
Yeah.
commercial?" And I'm like, "Yeah,
It's so
is."
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny the way they
Johnny,
must see
what's
the
like
world.
you mentioned kids, right?
Yeah.
And we could all talk about leadership, and we will definitely get to that. But I've learned more leadership lessons and life lessons from my kids.
Yep.
What's one thing that your kids have taught you that you take into what you do every day?
Yeah. I would say more than anything, just patience and understanding, right? Kids come into the world, they don't ask to be here, and they don't know shit, right? They don't know anything. They're going to make a lot of mistakes and they're going to get on your nerves and whatnot. But, it's our responsibility, as parents to teach them when they make a mistake that you should have done this, you should have done that. And it's always interesting because when they're your kids, they always have kind of, half of your genes. And so you see your own flaws within them as well. So it's like you're talking to your younger self to a certain extent. And so being able to kind of empathize with that little person who doesn't know anything. And you can very much translate that to the workplace, especially when you're dealing with, folks who are just now coming into the industry. And they're looking for, guidance and help. And, you have all this knowledge that's, very much second nature to you. But you really need to explain it to people, right? You need to explain, why you do things certain way and, why you should, address people this way, or it's important to build these relationships, or I know you believe you're right, but here's why you might be wrong, right? This person has a lot more experience than you. This is what they've seen. And so really trying to explain these things to people and just be patient, because just because you have a conversation with someone doesn't mean they're going to learn on the first time, right? Sometimes you need to revisit this a few times before it really kind of sinks in. Sometimes it'll never sink in until they actually make that mistake and, suffer some consequence from it. That's something I've learned to live with even on the job as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it's hard as a parent to let your kids make mistakes, right? If you know it's going to end up in some sort of pain.
Yep.
But I was just having this great conversation with this gentleman yesterday, and it's funny because, like you said, Tyler's heard me say it before, but I think we're all just kids, right? I think adults we just become adults with responsibilities. But he had this phenomenal concept of almost reparenting yourself, because that inner child can show up just as much as it can at home, right, with that mirrored image. But also at work, that same mirroring of others, where these characteristics or qualities that you dislike in yourself, you can't stand them in others. And it's like, wait a second, maybe, is that me? Like, and that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And I was going to ask you, Johnny, like, and how when your day goes sideways with the family or in work, like Kevin and I always talk about this, like we're not going to ever get stuck in it again, but me and him get stuck, man, and getting over just, and I won't go into like details or anything, but I think you know what I'm kind of talking about. Because like to me, like if like my soul isn't in line, if the family isn't in line, work is not just fun to me anymore. How do you get out of like out of the muck sometimes? Like when either work and vice versa, when work goes south, I say some prayers before I walk in the door sometimes, like in the driveway. I'm like, all right, God, I just can't reflect any of this weirdness that went on today. But how do you get over that kind of stuff?
Yeah. I say the first thing is I need some sort of physical activity. I need to blow off some steam, right? So that helps. And it doesn't have to be like, we can talk about early in my career, but I used to like train like boxing and whatnot. So it doesn't have to be that intense. I'm in my 40s now. But like if it's a walk or just like lifting some weights or whatever, like first thing is like blow off some steam. And then secondly, for me, and the opportunity isn't always there, I just need like 12 hours. Like if I get like 12 hours, like I am good. Most things just kind of roll off my back. Like I might have like an initial like response or internal reaction, but like whatever it is, if I get that physical activity in and I get a little bit of time, like I'm fine. It's whatever. I just need time to think. But I say the thing that always kind of brings me out of it is perspective, right? When I zoom out and think, okay, like this just went off the rails or this just went off the rails, but let me think about it. I'm in good health. My wife is good. All of my kids are fine. I do have a job given the market. And and I just realized things could be a lot worse. And so like taking as a whole, right? All of a sudden those issues don't seem as big and as necessary. You still have to deal with them, obviously, but they don't affect me personally as much because I've kind of gained that clarity and that perspective that I need to understand, like in the grand scheme of things, like I'm okay. It's just another hurdle I need to get through.
Yeah. And do you find that you gain a little like empathy for others too? Because I promise I probably have like 360 awesome days a year, and
Yeah.
that's just kind of how my mindset is. But there's those 5 days, man, that I'm like, oh
Yep.
boy, and sometimes I started like judging others for like being, not giving it their all in the workplace or something. But like I noticed I do the same thing when something kind of goes sideways in my life. I just kind of
Yeah.
get through the day anywhere possible. But have you
Yeah.
ever have you ever felt like the empathy just factor when something goes bad on you, but it almost like helps you understand people more?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I do this all the time. I mean, this is kind of natural to my personality. Like I'm somewhat of an empathetic person. When I'm always trying to get into the head of someone else, right? It's like, someone does something I don't understand or they respond to something that I did in a way that I'm just like, all right, well, let me just stop here and think about if I was in that person's shoes and understanding what I know about their situation, how would I view what just happened, right? And try to get to an understanding there. And if I can't, right, there's always, well, I don't actually have all the context, right? I don't know what's going on with them at home, right? Or with them right next to them or, what's going on in their lives. And so just always leaving a little bit of room for that X factor that, I don't know what's really going on with people. Or if I do, trying to understand like how would they react and trying to get to a place where, even if I still disagree with actions, right, I can at least understand why they would take those actions. And I think that helps me a lot as well.
Yeah, that's cool. I agree with what Tyler was saying too. It's empathy can be hard when you're not showing compassion for yourself, and I
Yeah.
think that's when you're starting to get real low. It's like, man, well, I tend to push in those moments. I push away the people that love me, and I go towards the
Yeah.
people that hate me. It's
Yeah.
like, this feels much better. This feels good. I like that deficit love.
Oh man.
But I think in those low moments too, Ty, like you're saying, is to not take things personally.
Yeah.
That's a real big thing for me. Because I'll still go back to the Courage to Be Disliked book where it's all world problems are interpersonal problems. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes we react to something that somebody else is doing and it has nothing to do with us. So
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
think that self-awareness piece is kind of a blessing.
Yep.
But Johnny, when did you, because I was distracted with work. I'll be honest. Like I went inward. I went workaholic, right? And I said, to prove myself, I want to be a high achiever.
Yeah.
Hide behind the numbers. Sales, it was easy, right? You had numbers to speak for yourself. You seem to have changed jobs a few times now. When do
Yep.
you feel like you actually got to know who Johnny was, like, and celebrate the good, maybe some of the flaws, the strengths, obviously? When do you feel, and how did you find who you were to your core, that soul that Tyler talked about?
Yeah. That's a really, really good question. Well, I think first of all, I'm still on that journey of discovering myself, frankly. But I think that I probably got to a real breakthrough. Let's see, I'm 41 now. It probably wasn't until like I was 38. So like somewhat recently in terms of like life, right? Just and I think I needed that much time because I always like to look back at things and kind of look at patterns, right? And just look at the phases of my life and like the decisions I've made. And, I talked about trying to put myself in other people's head, like put myself in my past self head. Like that's, equally as challenging, if not more so, right? And so it's not until, I got until, almost the 40th year of life to where I could really look back and see, okay, when I graduated school and I started working, I didn't really have a direction, right? Like I took a job because it was a really good job, came to DC, and I was just kind of moving around. And a lot of my success was, being in the right place at the right time. Obviously, having talent and being smart is great, but, having the right boss who encouraged me to make the right moves early on, put me in a engineering leadership development program, which then, put me in different positions. And, when I went to leave government and, just I happened to be learning the right technologies in the evening, and I got to put some stuff. I made some jQuery plugins, and the CTO at a company was like, "Oh, you want to come work over here and do this?" And so, seeing how much luck had to do with it, and then just kind of retroactively assigning that, but also thinking about, well, when was I being intentional? What type of things motivated me to be more intentional with my career, and what type of decisions did I make after the fact? And so for me, it took a long time to like really look back and think retroactively about my life and about when things started to change. And I think it wasn't until about 38 when I started to say, okay, these are the patterns for Jonny. This is what makes me successful. This is where I got real, real lucky. And able to kind of really think about who I was as a person.
Yeah. It's cool when you reflect,
Yeah.
it absolutely is. I think, for a long time, I think that ego was driving me so much that
Yep.
I forgot I wasn't even driving the bus to begin with. And you call it
Exactly.
luck, call it divine intervention or destiny.
Yeah.
It's interesting how the universe places people in your life at the right time.
Yep.
And you don't really understand. Sometimes going through those tough lessons, those bad decisions or wrong choices are tough.
Yeah.
You're like, "Well, man, well, I don't even know how I'm gonna get out of this." But then when you can look back on it, it's like, man, that was what I learned from that experience.
Yeah.
I think the hard part for me is how if I'm not in alignment, how much I use my past to assume and predict what's gonna happen in the future. Oh, this
Yeah.
outcome's gonna be the exact same. Instead of really being in that present moment. And a different conversation that I was just having, it's the word that he used, become an observer of your own life.
Hmm.
This is to actually feel, and
Yep.
I was like, that's so interesting because I think we associate with our feelings sometimes so much instead of just observing them, like passing water
Yeah.
under the bridge. And I know I struggle with is, hey, what I know now, passing judgment on that 20-year-old self, where it's like, man, what
Yeah.
the hell was I thinking? Like,
Yeah.
why did I make that choice?
Yeah.
That's where sometimes get stuck because it's like, well, you know so much more now than you did then.
Yep.
And looking at it just as an experience and to your point, like a journey. And
Yeah.
I think Tyler said it best. Life is definitely it's not a destination.
Yep.
And I think that's really what I was chasing for a long time. But
Mm.
ultimately, I think I was chasing that connection with myself. What's So you're in this new world, AI, right?
Yep.
And it's interesting because we talk about this over reliance potentially of
Yeah.
individuals using this for like everything. I
Yeah.
just saw a funny commercial the other day where these two people were interacting and they were just typing and it was like this person said hi, what do I say? And Harvard did that review where like parts of our brain are now not being used
Yeah.
for like creative thinking or problem solving and things like
Yep.
that. What is that balance? Like, what do you see? Like, what opportunities do you think will come from AI as both personally and in the professional space?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. There's a lot of opportunity, right? If you're thoughtful about it. I think it really comes down to being thoughtful, right? You definitely don't want to outsource your critical thinking and imagination to AI because, to your point, those skills will atrophy over time, and that's not what you want. This is particularly worrying when it comes to kids, right, and exposing them to AI too early without guardrails, that sort of thing. But even us adults who are like really getting into it now, I think being intentional about it. So I use AI both professionally, obviously, I'm helping building a business that's leveraging AI, but I also use it in my personal life as well. But I very much use it as a tool to assist me in productivity. Not, I don't outsource my thinking to it, right? So I won't. So if I want to like discuss a topic, whether it be like on LinkedIn or if I'm writing a post somewhere on some platform, I won't say like, hey, Claude, write a post that does XYZ, right? Like I'll do the first draft of the post and then I'll correct myself and I'll say like, look this over for like tone, corrections, things like that. Give me a better version of it. Then it'll do it. Then I need to make sure I check it because obviously AI hallucinates, right? And then like if you use AI as a collaborative partner to like make your work better, your creativity better, like there's nothing wrong with it. You can, do that all day. It's all good, right? Consume all the tokens you want. But it's not until you start to sort of outsource your thinking and imagination to AI, that's when you really get into trouble, right? Because you're not even producing high quality work at that point. So you're not doing, your customers, your boss, or your coworkers and your colleagues. You're not doing them any favors, right? And you're certainly not doing yourself any favor because you didn't learn anything. You didn't flex your intellect that day. You just like, press the button, right? And ironically, you're doing the exact sort of thing AI is pretty good at automating, right? So if you want AI to like not take your job, then like don't do your job in a way that's automatable, right? And so like these are the things I think people should be cognizant of when they're interacting with these technologies, to be very thoughtful and use it as a tool and not sort of like, as an intern that does the work for you.
Yeah. I love that. And don't outsource your creativity of problem solving because and just looking at what your company does now, accounts payable or accounts receivable, it is this repetitive, mundane task. And you ask most of those professionals, right? It's like what do you get out of what purpose are you gaining from your activities that you're doing every day? And I think that's really where I see a lot of potential. It's amazing to me how many jobs, right? You can read the job descriptions and assume maybe what some of the duties are from a title, but how much administrative, repetitive tasks that we're actually doing that could be cleared from our plate to enable even more creative thinking and innovation. And that's where I think is from somebody that used to sell software and say, I used to remember so many people saying, well, why would I want this? It's going to take my job. And it's like, no, it's not. It's going to take part of your job, but probably the part of your job that doesn't bring you much passion or purpose. So cool.
I think that's probably the biggest misconception about AI today. If you really look at what's going on, this is a pretty timely topic. It's not taking anyone's job. It's not. It's very much in the enterprise. People are using it, and I think people are using it and finding it very useful. But like, I'll talk about software engineering because that's my background, right? A software engineer is just not a person who just like produces code, right? Like that's a big part of the job. But, the misconception there is there's an assumption that software engineers spend most of their time typing, right? But they actually spend most of their time thinking. They might be thinking and typing at the same time, but it's the thought process, it's the problem solving that makes that engineer a good engineer. It's not the code itself, because AI can generate code much faster than a human can type it, but that's not what software engineering is, right? It's like solving problems and, thinking about heuristics. And if you're a senior engineer and you've seen how to do things well and you have those patterns in your brain, like AI doesn't like have that context, right? It's just like a tool to generate code, not even particularly good code. Right. I mean, depending on the model you're using and, how you prompt it and whatnot, it can be great or it can be terrible. It's almost always going to be somewhat inaccurate. And it still takes the mind of an engineer or someone who understands the code to catch those issues. Right. Yeah. And so as an engineer, AI may mutate how you allocate your time during the day, but it cannot take your job.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
And do you see it almost like as a textbook for some people, Jonny? Like, for instance, like I try to just help kids get interviews and jobs, like kids like coming out of college. And lately I've been, my buddy over at Kimberly Clark, he's like one of the head cyber guys. He had this really cool prompt sheet. And at the top of each box was what you wanted your prompt to do. But the prompt was pretty granular in information. And so I'm having these kids reverse engineer. I'm like, I'm having them study why did this guy prompt this to get this? And dude, these kids are
Mhm.
coming out with like they come out of these interviews, and by the way, I just do this for free for some of the all of the kids, you know,
Yeah.
and they'll come out of these interviews and they're like, dude, I just blew that hiring manager's like mind, and like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's really it's just something I kind of came up with. Just I saw this sheet of prompts, I was like, how do we get the kids help? But I wanted to ask you, Jonny, like if you're a kid right now, man, like you're at Texas Tech getting your computer science degree. Like I'm a little scared for him, dude. Like I was with the Fortune 5 guy the other day, one of my buddies, like a VP of innovation in tech, and he looked me in the eye, Jonny, and he goes, Tyler, in 5 years, all this stuff that they're learning won't matter. We're getting rid of our internship program. We're getting rid of our entry level hiring. And he looked me, dude, look at right at me, he goes, I could probably hire you on. And I was like, are you kidding me, dude? like for like, teamwork, leadership, getting along with people. And it's like, and this is like a $308 billion company. And I was like, holy
Yeah.
smokes, dude. But I guess go back, like, for one, what are you telling the kids out there? Because that's a soft spot in my heart. If these
Yeah.
kids are paying 60, 80, 100 grand, meanwhile, back at the ranch, I got a dude telling me that it's probably not going to matter what they're learning right now. Like, where do you end the chaos or start the building with these kids? Like, I asked this on every podcast for the past like
Yeah.
15 podcasts, by the way. I just need to know what you would think for the kids.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple things. I mean, for the kids, I would say business as usual, right? Like if there's something you want to study for whatever reason, interest or whatever, like you should still study that thing, right? Um, I'm highly skeptical that we're going to get to a place where all of a sudden, all right, we're done with the interns, we're done with the entry level engineers, like it's all good. Let's just sweep them. Like we don't need them because AI. I don't think that's in the near future, really. I mean, sure, maybe 30 years from now, and play this in 5 years if I'm wrong, but like it's just I work with this technology every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day, both professionally and personally, particularly the coding stuff, which is like the thing everyone says like is going to go away. And it just the tech just does not work that way, right? Sure, you could vibe code your way to like an app, but like I know how to read code. I know what it does. When I see the stuff it spits out, it's just like, yeah, that might work, but that's a security flaw, or that's not going to work long term, or yeah, that might work for 10 people, but it's not going to work for 1,000 or whatever. And it's just, you still need to understand systems and how systems work in order to orchestrate AI in the right way, right?
Mhm.
Again, AI like generates the code very, very quickly. That is not the same as being an engineer. So I'd say kids should still learn to do those things and still become very good engineers. They should still think about how to build systems and, how to build things that scale, right? These are still skills that you need, right? You may just use AI to sort of like manifest them as opposed to typing the code manually. But you still need to be able to understand what AI is trying to do in order to be able to prompt it effectively. And so like the skills might change. So I would say like still study what you want to study, become AI fluent for sure. And to our point earlier, don't outsource your intellect to it. And as long as you gotta keep the genie in the bottle, so to speak, right? And just make sure you know how to leverage this as a tool. But I don't think anyone should like panic over their,
Okay.
unless you're a
Yeah.
translator, maybe.
I love how Tyler said the textbook aspect of it. We all
Yeah.
grew up with the encyclopedias on the bookshelf, and there was lots of knowledge and wisdom in there. And that's where I've really seen with the youth is turn into the internet, and they think information is knowledge, which is wisdom.
Mm.
That's where I really see a big difference today.
Yeah.
One of the things I was going to talk about. Oh, Tyler, go ahead.
Oh, you got it? Okay. And yeah, Jonny, go back to the kids real quick, man, because it's, like I said, a soft spot in my heart to just help. I
Yeah.
help a lot of my clients' kids out, was what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
The relationship part is what I try to drive home with them.
Yeah.
And can I just give you one example to see if you would, let me just give you this example that I'm giving them. So say you went
Yep.
to Texas Tech. This is a true story. You're a hiring manager in the DFW area. I have a kid graduating from Texas Tech, computer science degree, what's the best way for him to meet Johnny Austin? Just to not to ask for a job, but to like really pick your brain. Because I'm what I'm doing is I'm having them like send LinkedIn messages or however they get to you. You know, saying, hey Johnny, I just guns up. I'm over here at Texas Tech. Would love to just grab some coffee with you, or lunch, near your work type thing, and the response has been amazing, Johnny. Like
Yeah.
it's been nuts. Like one of the kids has like more meetings than I do next week. And I was like, dude,
Yeah.
that's the best, dude. Granted,
Yeah.
I had to, but what was funny is he put up the creative part. So I do make him do some of their own homework, and I'll say, hey, shoot me a message that you would send a manager. And dude, I kid you not,
Yeah.
Johnny, I'm going like 8 for 8. All these kids are using AI for their messaging. It's like 5 paragraphs long. It's so awful. And I'm like, dude, so I'll give him like 3 sentences, right? It's like,
Yep.
Johnny, guns up. I'm in computer science, graduating next May, whatever. I don't know my second line. Is there any way I could just pick your brain? Because these kids really want it, right? Like some of these kids are adamant about getting jobs, but I guess how do you explain relationships is what I'm trying to get to. Because like I'm sure that you went from Till the Best Egg to Upwell. There had to have been some relationship from one of these to later to another. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and I guess like how can I convey that more to them? Do you have any golden words for me on how I can convey that message on the building relationships matters?
Yeah, that's a hard one, right? Because, we're all told that when we're younger, but, this is, I think the thing to convey is that to understand that this is not an instant thing, right? It's not like a vending machine where you like put a quarter in and out comes like a pack of Skittles or whatever. I don't know. Like relationships are investments, right? So you need to expect to invest in that relationship for quite amount of time without getting anything in return, right? It's not, and folks like myself who are, pretty senior, we've been around the block, we can smell a transactional relationship like a mile away, right? And sometimes that's okay, right? But if you're really looking to like build a relationship with someone, being authentic and just like reaching out to them and just saying like, I just want to have a conversation. Like I don't have a specific ask necessarily, but like I'm kind of new to this. I saw you, give a talk on a podcast or whatever. I really, thought that this line was really great or whatever. Like I think that's all that's really required to just sort of like, start building a relationship. But if you come in and just like, hey, I want to do this. And then, I see you're hiring, by the way, like that sort of thing. I mean, that's, you could do that, but like, okay, I know what what's going to happen here. We're going to have a conversation. You're going to ask me some superficial questions and then you're going to like ask me for a job. Right. And I get it. It's a hard job market, shoot your shot if you must. But at the same time, you're much less likely to kind of get a genuine response that way. But if you want to build a relationship, like start small. Introduction, like, ask some genuine, insightful questions and like in the call without an ask, just say, great, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. Do you mind if I reach out, in another quarter or whatever? Like no asks at all. And so again, like this takes time. It might be another year, it might be 2 years before anything ever comes out of that relationship. But it'll be well worth it in the end.
Good to hear that.
I think going into that curious, right? When you said ask genuine questions, is going in more curious. But Tyler and I had a blast during the pandemic because that's actually when I met him, and I was just kind of amazed by how transactional networking was, I guess. And it was only because I was having 5-10 meetings a day, meeting all these new people. But I understand what you mean is like sometimes people are entering that conversation pretty guarded because it's like, well, what do you want? And here Tyler and I were just helping out people just because, and their alarm, like it almost like broke their mind.
I mean, because again, from their perspective, like, I get a ton of LinkedIn connections and like messages or like emails or whatever from people who all want something, right? And again, I'm not blaming those people. Like they have jobs to do, they're sales reps, like they have legitimate reasons for reaching out. But the vast majority of people people who reach out to me like want something from me, right? And that's just what it is. And so when someone reaches out and they generally don't necessarily want anything, they just want to like exchange ideas and just talk or get to know you or whatever, like it is a little bit jarring because it's like, wait a minute, are you serious about that? You just want to like chat, like you don't want anything, you don't want a job, you don't want me to do XYZ or whatever, you don't want me, I mean, this is because that's just the nature of how we network, right? Everybody wants something. And so if you got a fancy title and you have a high profile on LinkedIn or whatever, everybody who reaches out generally wants something from you.
Oh, definitely. And that's why I think it's so funny when the AI is starting to create these personalized, right?
Yeah.
Emails. And it's just like, dude, it grabs like my most recent post or just something and you can see through it. And that's when I love that you use the word authenticity, because I think a lot of people show up in networking and they're meeting and they're honestly pretending to be something that they're not. And I think right there, our brains are pretty powerful things. And I think we can intuitively pick up on some of that. When authenticity, I mean, Tyler was like a shot of espresso at 7:45 in the morning. I was like, what the hell is up with that guy? I want some more of that. I need more of that in my life. So, but go back. What was one of the toughest lessons that you had to learn, Jonny? You mentioned that you kind of look back and you're looking to your past. But if you could pinpoint just one thing, and it's probably something that everybody that listens to this episode is really going to take away and probably put in their pocket. But I believe every person has a story, has a lesson that we can all take something from. What was it for you?
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good one. Well, we're talking about people. So I think probably one of the biggest and hardest lessons I've learned was that you need to trust your gut when it comes to people, right? Like I'm a kind person. I like to see the best in everyone, right? But I also have my instincts, especially with my experience behind me. And so when people tell you who they are and like what they're trying to like do, like you should listen to that, right? And so I've been burned a couple times, with people, let me tell you a story. All right. I'm not going to say names. I hired a guy for a role and I went to the bats because I needed some resources. I needed some help. And this is like a guy like I knew, but I didn't like really know. He seemed like a really good guy. But at the same time, like I didn't really know him that well. And, he kind of fell off the map a little bit and came back on. But he needed a favor. He really needed a job. So I hired him and he came on, he started. I'm trying to be vague. I'm not even saying the company or anything. So he came on board and like for his first day, like everything was like great, right? Like I vouched for this guy. He came on board. He's had good conversations. He did the interview and whatnot. On the second day, he showed up super early. The only reason I know this because one of my other engineers had already come in because he gets in early. And like the guy was like, all right, I'm going to go like get some coffee. I'll be right back. I've never seen the guy since. He just like walked out. He left the job, right?
Wow.
I'm calling his mom because that's his emergency contact. Because I'm like, did this guy step out and get hit by a bus, like literally or something? Like, what's going on? And I did get a hold of her, and I think she knew what was happening. She didn't share anything. She was like, oh, okay, I'll take care of this or something like that. And she just like hung up, and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? So anyway, I had reservations, but I didn't listen to them, right? And so I think that when people kind of show you who you are, like once you develop that sixth sense with your experience and you kind of feel it, you really need to trust that a little bit more because I mean, otherwise people are gonna put you in a position where you're gonna embarrass yourself. They're gonna let you down in a really big way, and your reputation means a lot. And so that was something I just really learned the hard way.
Yeah, it's funny because I think there's a difference between kind and nice, and I think
I was very intentional about using that.
Yeah, like kindness is different than being just nice, and I think to your point, like I'm an overtruster. Tyler's heard all the times I've gotten burned, but what I really try to definitely listen to my gut and instinct, but how do you not enter all relationships at that point, Jonny, guarded? Like, how do you prevent yourself from saying, oh, this is the same thing that happened before, and really let life, I guess, play out? How do
Yeah.
you prevent yourself from assuming the same outcome?
Yeah, I don't think you need to be guarded up front. I think, my thing is when I'm developing new relationships or even like when hiring people, like by default, you have my trust, right?
Mhm.
Like I
Same.
wouldn't get the time to know you or develop a relationship, or I wouldn't hire if I just like didn't trust you. It's not a situation where it's like, all right, now you work for me, now earn my trust. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you have it immediately, right? Like you have to take action, right? Or not take action depending on the situation in order for you to kind of lose that trust or make me think otherwise, right?
Mhm.
It's like, in school, right? If I'm not sure if you guys ever had a teacher that says, all right, first day of school, everyone has an A, right? If you, leave this class without an A, it's because you let that happen, right?
Yeah.
It's not me, it's you. So that's the way I view sort of like hiring and developing new relationships. Like, all right, right? You have my trust. I mean, trust is, with the lowercase t, right? Obviously, someone I just met, I wouldn't let watch my kids, right? It's a different type of trust,
Yeah,
right? It's
definitely.
just like, as a person, I believe you're a good person. You have good intentions. We may not agree on all the things, but I believe we're having a good faith conversation, blah, blah, blah. It's not until you show me otherwise until that I need to, sort of like treat you differently, right? Or
Yeah.
even remove you from my life.
Yep, absolutely. Cool.
Yeah, and I always think going back on that the first impressions thing, I think is kind of bogus to me in my experience. I tell the kids, where are you on like your 27th impression, dude? Like
Yeah.
the gentleman you talked about? Came in first day. We probably all I've seen this so many times. People come in ripping and roaring, but like day 105 gets here. Like where are you? Guys, and that's
Yeah.
what I try to understand. And by the way, Johnny, I tell my kids not to ask for a job. By the way, I wanted to tell you that. And what's funny, 8 out of 8 of them are like, do I ask for a job at the end? I'm like, no, dude, you just give the guy a high five and get the heck out of that coffee shop.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I guess, Johnny, like for you to earn these titles and your career and this leadership, like how do you sustain showing up every day? Like, cause it's hard, like getting back to people.
Yeah.
And by the way, when you get busy, it's a whole nother ball game. Like when I
Yep.
met Kevin, Johnny, my calendar could not be more open, dude. And I was
Yeah.
always like scratching my head. I'm like, why aren't they getting back to me right away? And now I'm that guy. I might just, I'm
Yeah.
getting back to people in my car. I was letting candidates in a U-Haul like a month or so ago. I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
I was like pulling on the side of the road. I was like, this is busy. But how do you
Yep.
sustain it, man? Because I think for a guy like you, your positions that you've been, blessed with, how do you keep that energy and like it's day one every day?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to radical prioritization. And again, this is somewhat against my nature as a kind person because, like, I don't want to let people down, but at the same time, I needed to learn that, you're going to let some people down, right? Or disappoint some people, maybe not in a catastrophic way, but like, there are people from the mid 2010s who's still waiting on that email, right? Like, you're just not going to get back to everyone. And so understanding that when you show up every day, right? Especially if you're in the world of startups, like you have a finite amount of time and like very important things that are important and urgent that you need to be getting done. And like those are the places where I focus my energy. And then once I've taken care of those things where I feel like I'm in a good place, then everyone else gets like responses, they get the play and whatnot. But if you try to do everything all the time, like you'll just quickly just kind of flame out. And so I think it's kind of giving permission to just like let some things drop on the floor. You have to, right? Because if not, you're trying to juggle way too much.
Definitely. That's kind of like one of the most fascinating concepts is to your point is like time. And
Yeah.
I think when you have nothing but time, you can't understand that people don't have it.
Yeah.
And I read this great book. It was called Do Nothing because I think like you and I and high performers, like it was this activity, but the idea of doing nothing is just
Yeah.
as productive as doing something was like, what? That doesn't even
Yeah.
make sense.
Yeah.
Especially in that startup world, like you said, like it is like, and you can't turn it off sometimes, right? You're constantly thinking about it. You're thinking about, all right, well, what can I do tomorrow? Or what
Yeah.
should I have said in that meeting today? And
Yep.
one of the things that I wanted to ask you, because leadership, and you mentioned kind of your obsession of investigating how people have moved up, right?
Yep.
What do you think some of those key characteristics and those traits are? whether it's soft skills, whether it's hard skills. But what are some of the repetitive themes that you've now found through your interviews on your podcast? What do they display? What do they have? What do they got?
Yeah, I think everyone hits an inflection point, right? It's like when people start off in their career, generally the thing that helps you advance are, under your control. It's like your intellect, how hard you work, all of those things, right? That probably gets you to like the director level or whatever. Something I've seen with like almost all of the conversations I've had is that something happens, right? You get to a place where all of a sudden your skills and like your effort are certainly necessary, but they're completely insufficient in order to get you to the next level. We were just talking about it. It's all about relationships at that point,
Yeah.
right? It's about, and I heard this on another podcast, so I won't take credit for it. At some point, it's not even about who you know, it's about who knows you.
Yeah.
Right. And that's more or less going to help what gets you to the next level, that next big opportunity. Right. And that's something I've seen play out a lot. And so I'd say whenever I'm talking to people, that's something that comes up over and over again. It's like, yeah, I was doing well. Maybe I hit a wall or whatever. And then like someone I met like a year and a half prior, like kind of plucked me out of obscurity and like said, hey, I got this opportunity. I remember we having this conversation. Isn't this like your jam or whatever? Like, can we talk about this? Like that happens all the time, right? And that's such, and that's the thing you can't really control it, right? You can, adjust the world such that, you increase the probability of that happening, but that's something that's just completely out of your control.
Yeah, which is scary, right? Because it's like,
it is scary or frustrating, right? Like someone like myself, and it's like, man, I want to solve this problem. I want to do X, Y, Z, problem solved. But if it's like, well, you can do everything you want, but like the next step is just to like wait.
Definitely. And that's where I think like some of those values, like your core values and not societal values, right, of popularity and materials but your core values, I think that's really where you mentioned it earlier, like your reputation, right? Having integrity, doing what you say you were going to do. Tyler and I were laughing because he would be like, Kevin, you were the first guy that told me you were going to do it and you actually turned around and did it. And like, I think those are the things that people remember. And I still go back to that Dale Carnegie book. Like, it doesn't matter really what you know, but it matters how you make people feel. And like that is something, if you're the positive person, you're upbeat. People don't like being around the negative Nancy, it's like your energy draining. But if you're adding, right, both into the relationship, but also into the individual, that positivity, that optimism, I think to your point, sometimes that mirror, right, is really positive when you find somebody that can give it back to you. Because I think feedback is kindness, and I think for a long time in a lot of these businesses and cultures that have been created, like we were too nice, but nice in a broad perspective, right? It's like some people like tough love. That was them being nice, but if you can really sit somebody down and tell them how they come across, right, and be that mirror for them, it's amazing how quickly they'll smash through their ego. And I love what you said earlier about like getting out and sweating or getting out and running. It's funny when you think of your mind, soul, and body, right? And when you talk about alignment, your body's the first one that actually knows reality. Your mind's just making it up. So to get back to walking again is that physical activity, because that's when you start to say, okay, I'm grounded now. But there's so much, and that's what's interesting in leadership, Johnny. What Tyler and I have found through our podcast is the best leaders are the ones that know themselves. The ones that can lead their own life the best. They tend not to take things personally. They tend not to take their days out on people. They tend not to be micromanagers and back up and give space. What's one of your advices to leaders today? Because in your space, you're dealing with a lot of the younger generation too. And I think the three of us probably heard the same things about our generation, right? We're entitled. We think we know everything, and we're lazy. I think it's just a repetitive cycle to just try to label something that we really don't understand, to oversimplify the complex humans that we are. But what are some of your keys to success with motivating and engaging and developing some of the younger talent?
I mean, with the younger talent, it's really about helping them understand that they have a long way to go, obviously, right? And you're not going to get there overnight. One of the things that I remember doing when, I'm sure you guys remember when like the coding boot camps first hit the scene, and they were cranking out a bunch of graduates. So this was a good place to find like some really non-traditional talent to come on the market. And one of the things I saw over and over again was, people would start and they're like, I broke into software engineering. Like, great. My manager's not a jerk. His name is Jonny, right? All right. 6 weeks in, how do I become a senior engineer? I'm just like, whoa, right? We can have that conversation, but like it's not this year. It's not next year. It's not the year after that. It's not the year. Like, as long as you understand that this is like a journey, and that, I know you have access to YouTube. No, I'm not going to give you 10 YouTube videos you can watch that's going to turn you into a senior engineer overnight, right? It's one thing to gain the knowledge, but I think, Kevin, you mentioned this earlier, that's not the same thing as wisdom, right? Like, wisdom to a certain extent is something that, like, by definition, it's valuable because you need to have gone through something in order to gain it. I mean, sure, people can tell you stuff, but it won't land with you necessarily until you experience something that also reinforces that same wisdom. You only get that with the passage of time and experience. That's why it's so valuable, right? And that's why senior engineers are so good at what they do, not because they watch more YouTube videos than you. It's because they have this experience, right? And all these failures. And so don't try to move too quickly and accelerate your career. Like, take heed of the fact that you're at the beginning of your career. Learn as much as you can, right? Don't be afraid of making mistakes. It's the best time to make mistakes because people are going to be very forgiving because they know you don't know very much, right? Like, learn those lessons. And so that's the thing I would tell people is, like, don't try to accelerate too much into the future, because once the future is here, right? Like,
it might not be as rewarding as you think it is.
It may not be as rewarding. You realize you don't have much time. I probably have more life behind me than I have in front of me. Not to be grim, but that's just the truth. I mean, like, these things happen very quickly. So, enjoy the time you have now.
Absolutely. And I think to your point, like, we live almost in this like immediacy economy, right? And this world that I can have anything that I want. And that's why I think of what I've learned from Tyler and others, is like really sharing with the youth the mistakes that you did make, those key inflection points in your own life. Like, hey, I used to struggle with this. Like, so if you're struggling with that, don't think that you're alone. And because I think sometimes, at least I can speak for myself, I had this belief that leaders were perfect, and it's like, all right, if I'm not perfect, then I'm not good enough to be that leader, because they would only share their successes. Like, oh, we made this change and it was my idea and this is how we got there. And it's like that projection that they keep giving you of that expectation, almost indirectly, consciously or subconsciously, where you're like, okay, then I need to do that. Right. But I think to your point, getting them to slow down, because I have the same comment. All right, I started last week. Now, how do I become a boss? Okay, well, you need to go through some lessons, and I can only teach you so much through my journey. But at the end of the day, like you said, those inflection points, at least I can speak in my own life, are the ones where I hit rock bottom, and I had no idea what was north, south, east, and west. But then you start going inward, because you got nowhere else to look.
Yep, exactly.
Hey, Jonny, I'm a lot like you too, man. Or not a lot like you, but when you mentioned 38, that's honestly when I really like hit my groove. And what was really funny, Jonny, like my network didn't believe me. They were like, because I would be like, guys, hold on. I just sort of got successful. Like, and I'm not even joking. Kevin knows this about when I met Kev, Jonny, I was like cold calling people and Kev couldn't believe it. He was like, you cold call? I'm like, yeah, man, that's what I'm doing. And I came out of like a very dark spot in my life in my early 30s as well. And like my brain wasn't even functioning all the way. And like, I was like, and the immediacy was, the immediate return was, it's never been in my mind. And almost thankfully, because I just wasn't much. It was so bizarre to be Jonny. Like, I was like all state in basketball. I was like first chair in orchestra in high school. And I was in college, like learning about like supply chain. I was like, this is the most boring thing of all time. So like, I don't really care how freight gets moved. It's just not me. But the immediate thing, and the failures, right? Like every hiring manager I work for, as it's my client, 10 out of 10 ask my candidates how did they fix something they broke. And what I've learned is like different cultures, Johnny, like there's a specific culture out there that won't admit that they failed at something. And I'm like, guys, you're going to get asked this. And then and they just don't click, and it's the Indian culture, they're like, we don't mess up. And I'm like, okay, but you have to have at least one mess up. Cause I mean, I believe people when they have messed up either pretty damn bad or whatever, I don't know what it is. And that's where like the wisdom comes into play, I think. But I'm just spouting over here. I'm getting excited for something. I don't even know what I'm like. And I love doing this stuff, guys. Like Johnny, like you make my day sharper by, sure, my work knows I grind. My family knows that I'm a absolute psych maniac when it comes to my career and earning my shower too. I loved how you said that. So yeah, and I came up with that coin like 2 months ago in this old man workout group I'm in, and I said, guys, I said something like, make your shower count today, or make yourself have to take a shower after this 5:30 a.m. workout. And someone way cooler than me coined it "earn your shower" the other day on a podcast. I was like,
I love that.
I was like, that's what I was trying to say, but you just said it way cooler than I did, man.
Yeah.
I'll still never
stealing
forget
that one. I'm
guy
stealing
that said,
that one.
"Earn your no," Tyler.
What's that?
Earn your no on our podcast. And it was like, fuck, that was good. It's like, I'm so afraid, like you get so convinced that fearful of no, but you got to earn it. Like it's a total role reversal, I guess, in your own mind. It shouldn't be easy. And I think, Johnny, from your perspective, I mean, the software, like we've got almost entrenched in that same idea that everything should be easy, and I don't know if we're getting lazier because I can literally have a guy come to my house tomorrow and mow my lawn. But like we live in this world. That's why I would love to be a handyman right now, because I have buddies that can't even hang a picture frame. It's like, shit, what are you going to be when you're like 80?
Yeah.
You're shelling out a lot of money.
And I don't know why we're making everything so easy, right? Because it's like, it's the slow parts of life where you're like doing something with intention that kind of gives life, its flavor, right? If I just sit down and like do nothing and automate all things, right? So you said like someone comes to mow my lawn, someone delivers my food, right? Someone else delivers X, Y, Z, and it's just like, oh man, I could go to the store and pick up X. That'll take me 20 minutes, or I could just order it from Amazon. It'll be here by 5 o'clock or whatever. And just like what are we doing, right? Like, what are we freeing up all this time for? It's just like I like tweeted about this a long time ago. It's just like, cutting corners is a lost art, right? Like we don't do that anymore because, back in the day, you get in your car, you go run errands, you stop by the store, you go do that. And like, we used to call that, I got to go cut a few corners. Like nobody cuts a few corners anymore. It's like you just get on your phone and you hail various people and they all like just bring things to you and you pay all your bills online. And it's just like, all right, great. I freed up 3 hours of my day. Like, what am I going to do now? And so, I find myself wanting to just kind of do more either with my hands or just like do things the hard way or whatever, just because it's like, it kind of gives me a little bit more flavor in my life than just like doing everything digitally.
Feels good too. And you have other conversations to have with people, right?
Exactly.
Like that are doing it with you. And I tell you, I've been on an eat at home kick for like the past 3 weeks, and I almost feel like I'm primal. Like I'll be on the way, and I'm like, I'm eating meat tonight, and I passed Chick-fil-A, I passed the blah blah blah, and I'm like, no man, let me get to the store, let me get my 4 pounds of grass fed beef, and let me just meat in a bowl, man. But that's how I'm unstoppable energy wise. I heard you talking about protecting your energy on your podcast a while back on another one, and it's almost like I don't even have to protect it if I'm healthy.
That internet that keeps popping in and out.
Oh man,
he'll be back.
Am I back?
I was gonna ask, Johnny, do you like, what are we gonna do with all that time, right? And I think it's interesting because I think we wear busy as like this social currency right now, just like we did titles or money, right? Monetary value. But do you think we're just filling that time with more distractions? And do you feel like working with your hands, doing something, saying, I spent time on this and now I can see what I did. I know in leadership for me, you do a lot of work, but you don't always get the gratification of, well, what did that actually result in? Because I can't touch it, I can't feel it. But what do you think about that? Like, what do you think? It's just we're so distracted and we keep seeking distractions to fill that void of self and maybe that connection with self?
Yeah, I think we're trying to escape something. I mean, life is hard, right? And like
Yeah.
there's a lot going on in the world right now, and there always have been, right? You pluck any middle-aged guy from any, point in time and it'll be like it's a lot going on right now. And so but when you think about what's happening, right? Like we're freeing up all this time, but at the same time, we are very distracted, right? Like we're filling as much time as possible with like content, right?
Mhm.
Everybody wants you to consume content because, right, if you really think about it, like that's the currency of the internet, right? It's not
Mhm.
Bitcoin or dollars or whatever. It's your attention, right? Because everyone needs you to look over here, right? And so I think that when we're not cooking, we're not building something, we're not mowing the lawn, right? Everything points you to, fire up Netflix, all right, or get on YouTube or doom scroll on X or whatever, right? It's all about the currency of your attention. And so what I've been trying to be more intentional about is like, I'm not giving that stuff away for free anymore, right?
Mhm.
Like my attention is going to go to other things, right?
Mhm.
Maybe I want to mow my lawn on my own, right? Yeah, I can pay someone to do it, but maybe I'm just going to go do that, right? Or I'm going to cook this week, right? Right? I
Yeah.
could, just order some food and, watch TV until it gets here, but like, no, I'm going to like cut up some onions, like get the beef and like put it in the pot. I'm going to like cook a meal, right? And so I think it's okay to just sort of like start to withhold your attention a bit more, make it
Mhm.
because it is valuable and only give it out when you really feel like you're getting value from it, right? Not
Yeah.
from garbage on the internet or doom scrolling various apps and whatnot. So I've just been like super intentional about like taking
Yeah,
back
that's
my
cool.
attention and like applying it to other things.
I think people forget about that monetary value of their time. Somebody's
Yeah,
making money off of your attention. So I
yeah,
loved how you
yeah,
said that. But I think what we've said throughout this entire podcast is genuinely how you build confidence. Choosing discomfort. We talked about that.
yep,
We talked about building competence. And we also talked about, I think, like, I'm going to do this week. These are these small promises that we're making ourselves, right?
yeah,
To build trust and ultimately confidence in yourself. And
yeah,
that's when I can tell I'm getting off course, right? When I stop
yeah,
making these small promises, I'll make bigger promises with myself that I clearly probably can't accomplish. And it's like, oh, there's proof, right? You can't
yep,
do it. There's your proof.
yep,
But what we're talking about is kind of like some of these smaller promises, these small wins that you can continue to stack up. So
yep.
I just looked at the time. It's 2:20. I can't believe it, Johnny. This has been an awesome
Oh yeah, this has
conversation,
been
and time
easy.
certainly has flied.
It's been great. It's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, my litmus test, guys, if Netflix doesn't seem super fun, I'm not doing my right life. Like kicking your feet up every now and then is amazing, but like earning your
Yeah,
shower, earn your Netflix is all I got to say to the crowd, man. And if you know what
there
I
you
mean, you
go.
know what I mean, because there's no worse
Yeah,
thing than being like on that stuff or even on Twitter all the time, and then it's like not even exciting anymore.
yeah.
But anyways, Johnny, thanks for being on the show. Sorry about my internet kept going out, whatever. And
It's all right.
ladies and gentlemen, this is Johnny Austin, and we'll hit stop recording now if you guys are good.